Hey, what's up guys, Battle571 here today, and I want to talk a little bit about the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pro. These are the 80 ohm version for reference. So what is this for? Why this headphone? Why was it made? This is a studio monitor, closed back headphone that is intended for tracking, some mixing, that kind of thing. Audiophiles are quite attracted to it because it does have a very good sound, which I'll describe in more detail in a little bit. But first, as usual, the hardware. This is a German-made headphone. Every single one of Beyerdynamic's models are German. They are made in Germany. And it's built pretty strongly. Not surprisingly, I mean, this is like a $200 headphone. I didn't pay that much for it, so I bought mine used, but it really is quite worthy a build of the price. These are plastic, actually, as you can probably hear. They've got a nice kind of marble kind of finish going on. It's still made of plastic, but it's a very durable plastic. But what's good is the headband is made of metal as usual, as on other Beyerdynamic models. The headband, since this is a Pro version, is replaceable. You can unbutton this, as you can see. So that can be replaced very easily. The ear pads, as always, are the standard Beyerdynamic fare. Velour, very comfortable, very soft. It is worth noting that the ear pads on the 770 are harder. They're more, they're not as plush as the 880 and 990 ear pads, which I believe both of those use the same ones. These use the EDT770V. I know that because I had to buy a pair, because the ones I got when I bought this headphone were quite worn out. They were well used. So they're a little bit more plush and a little bit less memory foam-like. But that the comfort doesn't suffer in the slightest. In fact, I found it better because the DT880 were so soft of an ear pad that my ears would actually touch the inside a little bit, and that's definitely not the case with these. And also, it's a little bit thicker of a velour because they need to be a little bit sound isolating. These are tracking headphones. You don't want a lot of leakage in their closed back, so that's that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from the build quality standpoint. Very good. Like the 880s, they adjust like this. I do have a review on the 880s if you haven't seen it, so you can see that. These are a part of the DT line, the DT770, 880, and 990. The 770s are the closed, the 880s are the semi-opens, and the 990s are the full opens. These are known for their bass. The 880s are known to be pretty neutral, and the 990s are much more fun. They've got a bass and treble boosts going on. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the sound. Now, these are very interesting. Overall, they somehow managed to really avoid almost all of the pitfalls of a closed headphone. If you look at some of the CSD plots, if you're familiar with how fast a headphone is at recovering from transients, you'll see that they measure similarly to open headphones, which is really, really impressive. It's not something you usually see, but somehow Beyerdynamic has done an excellent job with avoiding resonances inside the ear cups, which is one of the biggest problems with closed headphones. Closed headphones are inherently worse from a frequency response standpoint because resonances inside the ear cup can color the sound quite a bit. Now, I'm not saying these are neutral, uncolored headphones, because that is very much not really what they are. But the sound overall has, I love how Beyerdynamics, I'll start with the mids. I love the Beyerdynamic mids because they're always so pristine. And these are just like the 880s, very, very neutral mids, very, very neutral mids. Very neutral in the sense if you take them alone. The bass on these is huge. It's enormous. I think the 80 ohm actually has the most bass, so that's probably why I'm reacting that way. But it is really voluminous. It's probably at least 5, 6, maybe 7 dB above neutral. It's very high. It's very powerful. It packs a nice punch, but it's not so punchy as to be incredibly distracting. Although I don't think classical music would sound great on these, honestly, because they would sound a little bit bloated. The bass, although it is very powerful, still remains fairly tight and improves with amplification from what I've heard. But even out of a Xonar DGX, or even my, a little bit less so, out of my work computer, where I use these the most, it's still pretty good. It's still pretty tight. It's very powerful and extends extremely deep. It goes way down 10, 20 hertz, still very audible. Actually, a little bit boosted even. So awesome bass for EDM. The bass is probably, I'm spending so much time talking about it because it really is the big point of these cans. It is awesome bass, and it's one of the biggest reasons why I'm keeping these as long as I can. Again, mids uncolored, they don't have any of that like boxy resonance, nasal kind of tonality. And when I talk about the K271s, I will discuss that a little bit further. But they don't have that kind of coloration that you usually find in closed headphones. The treble. Okay, now I was a little bit surprised by the treble on these because I've always thought of the DT770 as supposedly very V-shaped and quite a boost to the treble. But that's not really the case. The treble here was actually darker than that on the 880s. It still has the Beyer treble sound to it, meaning it's a little hard, it's a little strident. There are prominent peaks at the usual low and mid treble points, around 6 and 10. And this stuff shows up on frequency response graphs as well, but they really do sound like the graph up there, except I thought they were going to be a lot brighter than they were, but they really weren't. These are kind of laid back, I was a little bit surprised by that. And there is a little bit of a detail cost there. These don't have, I wouldn't say nowhere near as much, but I'd say, as usual, the spiky treble of Beyers does the usual hiding of the very, very upper treble frequencies. That was the case with the 880s as well, but with these, they're a little bit less detailed than that. Maybe the 600 and the 250 ohm versions are better. I don't know. I've only heard these. But the 80s in particular have a very powerful bass, quite neutral mids, and the treble is the usual Beyerdynamic treble sound, but not too strident like the 880s. And I actually really like this combination. And at the same time, they're very fast. They don't have too much ringing anywhere in the frequency response, really. And it really prevents them from sounding like a closed headphone. Another thing that does as a soundstage is awesome. It is definitely the best soundstage I've ever heard from a closed headphone. That's saying quite a bit. I've tested at least 15 of these kind of closed headphones over the time I've been listening and being an audiophile with these kind of things. And these are amazing for being a closed headphone. That's not to say they're going to beat my Q701s at any time, but they really have a soundstage, and it's not something that you normally expect. When I put these on after I was listening to the ATH-M40X, which I had been listening to for a long time, I was amazed. It was an instant difference. The soundstage is just awesome. It's fantastic. So what do we have here? What is the full package? Why am I raving about these? They're a closed headphone that have good isolation without needing to have leather pads. They're velour pads, good isolation and good comfort and fast sound and good bass and a good soundstage. That's ridiculous. It's almost impossible to find all of those at the same time in one closed headphone. So this is a really special headphone, I found out to me. And a lot of reviewers don't really talk as much about the details as I do. So I try to give you a better idea of what it really sounds like versus, I would say my neutral point is about the HD 600 or so, with a little bit more bass. A little bit more bass extension. Sorry, not a little bit more bass, just extension. And compared to that, these are amazing. These are actually really good. They're quite worth $200. They really managed to avoid and just somehow say, whatever, man. There are no closed headphone drawbacks, and they just go. And it's great. I love it. Definitely one of the best closed headphones on the market at the price point these are priced at. These are quite worth it, $200 if you have it to cough up. I'm glad I got them on eBay cheap. I got a really good deal, about $100, and then I just replaced the ear pads. So the total price is under $150, and these are unbelievable. And that's about it. So I hope that this helps. I know a lot of people on Reddit actually bought a whole bunch of these 80 ohm versions because there was a sale recently on them. and they made a good decision. These are great. These are awesome. I actually use them a lot for EDM, and they also make metal sound really awesome. Brings out a lot of the bass drum and kick and all that kind of thing. They're great. The mids are never harsh. The treble is never it's never too harsh, never too piercing. Not very sibilant, despite the fact that it's still elevated and has peaks. It's not like a DT880. So it's awesome. I love it, and I'll be keeping it for some time. If you have any other questions about these, disagree with me, have some more impressions to share, let me know in the comments. And like the video if you liked it. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. And if you're wondering where my guitar videos are going, I actually haven't been doing that in quite a while. But don't worry, they're not off the table. I will get around to doing another one. I'm working 9 to 5s now, so it's a little bit less time that I have on my hands here. But I'm going to try to go through and review each of the headphones I have now, because I've become an audiophile over the past couple years, and constantly been upgrading and selling off what I don't like. And I'm approaching some really good stuff. These DT770s, 10 out of 10 in terms of closed back. Being a closed back, just awesome. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.